Hello to Facebook. Hello to YouTube. Okay, we have jury-rigged our system as per usual, and we are hoping that the technology is working, and that some of you are going to tune in and be excited and interested in today's discussion, which is about my books. What else? What else would we talk about? No, today we're actually going to talk about other people's books and specifically those books that are for those of you who are excited about my books. Here's the thing. I'm going to start this off strong by saying one of my concerns with this particular topic is that it's hard for me to find and recommend books that are exactly like mine. So, my approach to this is to find and talk about books that correlate to different aspects of my own stuff. And that's always a challenge because how do you analyze your own stuff? Because it's your own. As like an academic book critic, this is difficult to do. Not that I am one, but there it is. I see we have a sum total of one person watching on Facebook, and it looks like 4 people on YouTube, so that's exciting. Madam Askew is here. Hello, darling. Hello. So there are a few of you. Oh, Jude, hello. Robert, hello. Oh, how exciting. So hi to those of you who have tuned in and have managed to find it, which I know can be difficult in these days and ages with technology. Please, hello, Kat. Please do leave a note or a comment that says hi and where you're tuning in from. If you'd like, what tea you might be drinking. We will have a quick gossip sesh on what's going on in general before we climb into the topic of books, everybody's favorite, I hope. And the gossip session is going to be what tea and what makeup, as per usual. Tea. The tea I'm drinking out of a mug, I know, not a teacup. It's a mug kind of day. What can I say? Is this one. I remembered to bring the packaging, but unfortunately, YouTube is very good about switching around writing, but Facebook is not anymore. That Facebook's really pulling back on the like features that you can add to a live. It's becoming very complicated. But anyway, this is Taylors of Harrogate, which is a brand I'm very familiar with, but doesn't really have my loyalty in any one tea arena, except that in general, I like their quality and I think they're pretty good. So I have been instructed that I'm supposed to have more green tea and less black tea. Woe is me, tear. So I don't really like plain green teas. I like an oolong, but I don't really like a plain green. I like greens mixed with stuff. So I got this like sampler from Taylors of Harrogate that had a bunch of greens mixed with fruity things, which is about how I am if I want to tolerate a green. And today I am sampling the lychee lime green tea. And you know what? It's pretty good. I like it a lot, actually. I like a sour thing. I love a perfumey kind of tropical fruit note, and that's pretty much what you get. You get some green tea with some lychee and quite a bit of lime. It's quite limey. It's kind of like a warm green tea limeade, which may not appeal when I put it in that way, but I like it a lot. So that's the tea I'm having today. These are my brand new mugs, sourced at great trial and tribulation. My teacup game is fine. I'm really happy with all of my teacups, but I have been dissatisfied with my mug collection and my mugs for, at a loose guess, 20 years. And I finally decided that this year for my birthday, one of the things I was going to do was try and find some mugs that I really liked. Because I am a ceramicist and an archaeologist, and ceramics is my focus and was my specialty when I was working on my PhD and doing my master's degrees. They're all in ceramics. Therefore, to buy a new ceramic object is like an epic undertaking because it has to be perfect, because theoretically I could make it myself. And one of the things that I demand from a mug is, one, that it not be big. I know some of you devotees of like tea drinking out there, you probably love a big mug. I don't like a big mug, 12 ounces, or in most cases 13, so that you sink a 12 with a little bit of room at the top so that you don't spill as you're walking around your apartment. That's what I want. in a mug, I want a small mug. So that is the first requirement. And that is weirdly challenging in this day and age where everything has gotten bigger that you can source. And that is because I'm drink tea, but I'm not a really fast tea drinker, and I don't like it if it gets cold at the bottom of the mug. So I want a mug that's not so big that I can't make it through. So that's why I like a small mug. I want a relatively thin lip. I like a glossier glaze. I don't like a matte glaze. They can be scraped too easily with metal utensils. So I don't mind like raw matte bottom, but the interior has to be glossy. And a thin lip, so a relatively thin wall structure to it because I don't want drippy bits. I don't like those cafe fat-lipped mugs. No, thank you. Diner mugs are not for me. And then key, and this is where almost every mug in existence falls down. All of my fingers need to fit through that handle. All of my fingers, not 2, not 3, all of them, all 4 of them. So a nice, large, chubby handle. And really, I understand the aesthetics of a delicate handle, but I use the handle. I am a handle user. I know a lot of people are mug clutchers. I am not. And so that handle really, it has to fit my whole hand. And honest to goodness, that is where I struggled. I've struggled. So yes, all of which is to say, this is not necessarily my aesthetic, although it's a fine aesthetic. This is what I would call the Heath aesthetic. Just like this style of mug sort of came into prominence, this sort of glaze half down idea in the like 1960s is when it started to really take off in popularity. So I don't mind it. It's got a retro thing going for it. But the shape, form, and everything else about this mug, all of the technical aspects of this mug are perfect for me. So that is how I ended up settling on this mug. Oh, and then the last thing was, because I have guests quite often, and I'm often serving tea, obviously, I wanted it to come in a range of colors so that I could get matched but mismatched so that people would know which color mug was theirs. Like you do with wine charms at a cocktail party. So I wanted that, but with the colors of the mug. So this particular mug also, it came in sets of 2, and it came in 3 different colorways. So which all sort of goes with my aesthetic. So yeah. So now I have my mugs. My goodness, that was about 2 minutes of Gail talks about ceramics. Sorry, not sorry. My old passions will come to the fore. We're talking about things we're passionate about today. So I'm very, very passionate about ceramics. To this day, it drives my friends crazy. I just did this at dinner last night. If I don't like the plate and the restaurant has like mismatched plates, I will like sneakily trade my plate with a different empty table, so that I have a plate that I don't mind eating off of. I also will check the bottoms of plates and things all the time, because I am fascinated by where it's made and where it comes from. And if I can guess, if I can look at the plate and be like, "Ooh, this is clearly a Japanese plate." Moving on to things that may interest you more. These earrings are just fun little plasticky ones. They're a teapot pouring into a little teacup, and they were a gift for my birthday from a dear friend who's charming. These are pairs. They are the kind of glasses where you can change out the frames. You can maybe tell, maybe not tell, but this has little teapots all over it. I love them. I love my pairs. I'm a big devotee. I have the Ella shape. Lipstick. Again, I have probably more to say that those of you are interested in, but I do get comments with people being like, "What color is your lipstick?" So I was trying to match this top with my lipstick, and I didn't have exactly the right exact same color, but the closest I could get was this. This is Maybelline's newer color stay line. It's called the Superstay Teddy Tint. And I got to say, I prefer the original formula more. I have a friend who loves this more than anything. I like these better. These are the originals. I think these last longer. So I was wearing this morning, and it wore off after, 4 cups of tea and 2 meals. So, this one wouldn't have, though. This one would have lasted all day. This one wore off slightly. So I put another lipstick on top of it, and that was this. This is an entirely new company and formula for me. This is the Kiko Milano Jelly Tint, Jelly Style Jelly, something jelly. It's basically a melting glass, so it's kind of like a hybrid balm lipstick. So it's very like creamy and smooth and really pleasant to wear, but it comes off on everything. But it's good color. So yeah, So I'm wearing basically 2 lipsticks, and I wish I were wearing a different one. That's the way we go. I honestly don't think this is gonna last very long in my collection. It doesn't fill a niche. I only wear 2 kinds of lipstick, really. I wear a lipstick that's easy to get off when I'm doing something like just a Zoom interview or whatever, and I'm gonna take it off right after. Or I'm wearing a color stay that has to last all day at a convention and through multiple feedings of the Gail and a lot of tea. And I don't want it to come off on my tea mug. So, so those are the only 2 kinds of lipsticks I really wear, in the bright red. So there it is. Yeah, this top was a gift as well. I inherit other people's closets all the time. People see something slightly retro or or whatever, and they think Gail, and then they give it to me, which is very exciting in my life. This was actually a gift. I also am the closet cleaner friend. So if you are struggling to get rid of items from your closet, you invite Gail over and she sits on your bed and renders judgment on your closet and tells you to get rid of things and tells you you're never going to repair that and tells you it has a hole in it and tells you it does not look good or it is the wrong shape. I am brutal, but I will help you get rid of clothing. And so I was helping a friend get rid of her closet, and this came up, and she didn't want it anymore, and I was like, "Well, can I have it?" So yeah, so that is the catch up. So we do this little catch up, everybody. So it gives everyone time to find the live stream and tune in and watch. And now that we have spent approximately 10 minutes chatting about inconsequential details, shall we get on to books? This is exciting. So I just have a random assortment of my books on display at the back, because they're cute. I like the Subterranean covers a lot, so I often have them in the back. But let's talk about recommendations. So the way I'm going to do it, you should feel free to throw a recommendation that you think readers of my books would love in the comments at any point in time. But I'm going to like sort of theme it. So basically, the first theme is books that combine fantasy or magical realism or sort of sideways paranormalness with historical tropes. So we're going to talk about sort of Parasolverse books first. So books that are this mix of historical and fantasy. And steampunk, of course, falls into this. So the first one on my list is a newer author to us. He's been around a while now, and that's Clark. And the book I always recommend you start, if you want to start with Clark, is, and I'm just going to use authors' last names. This is all on the linked blog post. The blog post is linked in both places. So it's linked in the comments on YouTube and the comments below on YouTube and the comments above on Facebook. So you can find all of the blog post there, and all the authors I talk about are going to be on that blog post. For the authors that other people talk about, you're going to have to hunt and peck on your own. So Clark's Black God's Drums is the first one I read, and so it's the one I tend to recommend. And I think like anybody working their way through an author's pantheon kind of has their approach. Madame Askew is a I would say possibly a fan of Clark, so you can always ask her for her recommendation. But I would start with Black God's Drums. It's a sort of shorter piece, and it'll give you an insight into sort of his style. It's like steampunk New Orleans. It's pretty cool. His world building is excellent. So if one of the things you like about my stuff is like the integrated world building style of approach specifically to steampunk, then I think you'd like Clark a lot. Okay, next up, and remember we're talking about fantasy historical mixing, is Jones. And I would say Howl's Moving Castle. So this is a YA, but it is one of my favorite books of all time, I would say. It is a really tight, well-written standalone. I would call it a standalone. I like to pretend any other books in that series don't exist. For those of you who have seen the Howl's Moving Castle Studio Ghibli version, they're not the same. The Ghibli is an adaptation, but it's a great adaptation. They both are very good, but they're very different in terms of core structure. So, I mean, it's a worthwhile experience watching and reading, and you'll get completely different things from the experiences. The reading, though, one of the things I always say to readers, as well as to authors, is that the thing about Jones's book, this one in particular, is how neat it is. all the threads are sort of tied up, and there's foreshadowing and thread drops at the beginning that are then picked up and pulled together again in an extremely like adept way. It's a very stylish young adult book, in a manner that I think we don't really get. It's very much of its time in terms of like trends in YA fiction. And I don't think we really get YA of this style very much anymore. And I like that about it. I like its sort of tidy, stylish classiness. So yeah, that is the second one I would recommend, again, for the historical fantasy mixing. House is more fantasy, but it has a Victorianness to it, a sort of historical feel to it. It sort of starts in a seamstress's dress shop, kind of. There's lots of hats and stuff, so it's clearly not modern. Next, I have a NYX pull, and this is going to startle people because a lot of people know NYX for the necromancer stuff, but I really love his Newt's Emerald, which is a gaslight fantasy. So the distinction, which isn't really drawn that much anymore, used to be that like historical mixed with fantastical elements like fae and magic and stuff was gaslight fantasy, and historical mixed with technological elements like dirigibles and, etheric transmitters was steampunk. But it's probably partly my fault, but there's quite a bit of a mixing of the two. But technically, Newt's Emerald is gaslight fantasy. And it's also a Regency romance. Garth is a big lover of Georgette Heyer. He sort of keeps it under wraps. And this was his little acknowledgement of that love. And I love it. I would also call it YA. I think it fits into the YA. But it's an excellent sort of snappy little gaslight fantasy. The next recommendation I have is Polk's Witchmark, which is a time slip piece. But again, I don't know, this one I'm not as sure as, if any of you have read Witchmark, please say so and let me know how you feel it jives with my own stuff. This is one of those where author fails to understand themselves and their reader to the extent that is deserved or is perhaps expected. I think Polk's Witchmark is kind of there, but yeah. Finally, we have Walfolk, who has a series of steampunk novellas. They're kind of alt. I link them in this blog post, but they're sort of alt reality history, alt history reality, but in a much more major social class way, and it's set in the United States than my stuff. But still sort of pithy and charming and fun. Then we have Reedy's Dealing with Dragons, which is YA fantasy series. Again, this one is, I think, the least historical of the pulls, but has the sort of whimsy and charm. And I would say, yeah, Dealing with Dragons is the one I always recommend you start with if you haven't read Reedy before. That's a very fast read. Then I would pick Burgess's Courting Magic, which is one of my favorites. That's comes out of the Cat Incorrigible series, which are middle grade, but Courting Magic is YA. It's just a short story, but it's great. But it's a gaslight fantasy. I would say Courting Magic is a perfect insight into Burgess's style. So if you like Courting Magic, you'll probably like everything that she writes. And then McGovern's Bloodlust and Bonnets is a graphic novel pull. I just wanted to make sure that I included a bits of everything. And it's a sort of a version. The way I describe it is it's Jane Austen meets Our Flag Means Death, but in graphic novel format. So that's Bloodlust and Bonnets. And then finally, we come to the Coup de Grace, which is the book I would say that most people talk about when they talk about my stuff as sort of companion pieces. And that's this one. It's the only one that I have a physical copy of. I tend to read digitally, but that's because I love a mass market paperback. So I kept this one. And this is Sorcery and Cecilia. And it is by Reedy and Severmer. Reedy appearing twice on this little list. I just think it's an epistolary. So it's told letters between two cousins and best friends, one of whom is left in the countryside and the other of whom goes to London to have a season. And they're both, to some extent or another, magically inclined or get involved with magical shenanigans. And their two stories are taking place in these two different places, and they're telling each other about what's going on. But of course, they sort of cross over and link up. It's charming. There is a sort of Regency romance aspect to it, but it's mostly about their friendship and these letters. And it is the result of a letter game between the two authors. So the two authors picked characters, picked a setting, and then would write to each other actual physical longhand letters in the voice of their characters. And then when they completed the game, they were like, oh no, we have a book. And so that's how this one came to be. I love this very, very much. It's one of my favorites. And when people like compare my stuff to this, I'm always very honored. So those are books that are fantasy and historical. So now I'm gonna scroll and see for the people who might be listening to this and are not watching it. Again, you can always go back and check the comments and stuff, but I'll do a scan through and see if oh, Madam Askew, we'll take a break while everybody's typing out comments and telling me their picks for this particular category. And Madam Askew has asked about my necklace. This is a vintage piece. It was a gift for me when I was young, actually, when I was a kid or in teenager. And actually this elaborate asymmetrical silver is the clasp. It has an internal hook clasp, and then it has smaller joins throughout. I like to wear it with the asymmetrical piece at the front because I love asymmetrical things. But yeah, thank you. It is a vintage piece. I think 1920s, 30s, although I'm not confident. I've never had it looked at. Jewelry is not my expertise. But yes, it is. Your eagle eye is correct, Madam Askew. It is in fact a vintage piece. Oh, this is the thing about YouTube that I have learned is that people's handles are complicated. So Pepsicodec 1029 wants to know what my current writing project is, and we'll touch on that at the end if you guys really want. I'll try to remember to come back to that. If you folks, excuse me for misgendering anybody. Not finding the blog post with the book recommendations. All right, YouTube, I can simply drop the link into the YouTube if it will let me. So I put it in the chat. Yes, it worked. There's the blog post. But after this live posts on YouTube, then you'll be able to see the comments below that should have the links in it. Right? Sometimes you have to click on it. There's a more with the burger dots. Facebook, you should be able to find it, no problemo. But I'll jump in and leave it in a comment later there as well. Some comments about love for Patricia Reedy. I understand completely. I'm a big fan. Oh, Queen Honeybee says Emily Wilde's series and Heather Fawcett. I've heard of Emily Wilde. I'm not entirely sure if I read it. I'm a terrible reader in that because I'm such a fast reader, my retention is awful. So I might have read them and even liked them and recommended them, and then just my brain forgot about it. But Emily Wilde rings bells, but Heather Fawcett, I think, is a newer author to me. I don't know if I've read anything of hers. But Queen says that they're fairies, magics, and a historical European countryside, which sounds quite cozy and delightful, quite frankly. Yes, the blog post is from 2012, but I keep it updated. Most of my blog posts, I write them to be perennial so that I go back in and update them and edit them and make sure that they're current. Yes. All right. Next up, let me just look at Facebook and see if Facebook has any. Oh, we're having a ceramic discussion on Facebook. Excellent. Somebody may or may not have asked for the link to be left in the Facebook, and I'm afraid I can't do that. But yes. All right, back to discussion. So the next books like the Parasolverse or books like Gail Carriger's style that I want to talk about are funny books. And this is a little harder, actually. I mean, humor is very subjective. And there's not a lot of authors who write primarily humor. Although even I don't really qualify as that anymore. I wouldn't call, for example, some of my more recent stuff humor first and foremost. Like the Tinker Star Song series, for example, has funny moments, but and it's not, it's not Douglas Adams, right? Whereas some of the Parasolverse, the early Parasol books are very funny, or they're intended to be very funny. I hope you find them funny. So codicilling that would be my first one, is Douglas Adams. I'm a huge fan. If you like my stuff and you have, or especially the Parasolverse, and you have struggled with, say, Hitchhiker's Guide, you might try Long Dark Tea Time of the Soul, which is a different kind of tone and tenor. It's a surreal mystery comedy with historical notes. So yeah, I was raised on the British humorists, a couple of whom we'll talk about more shortly. And so my style of humor, especially in the Parasol Protectorate series, and to a certain extent, Etiquette and Espionage and Custard Protocol, and then Defy or Defend in particular. But that style of humor is very informed by my upbringing, which was with British children's books and British young adult books, and then lots of British humor. British TV was the only TV I was allowed to watch ever, that kind of thing. So Adams definitely falls into that. The first Adams I heard was Hitchhiker's Guide, the radio play, way back on tape, on cassette tape, because I am old. The next one I'm going to recommend is a nonfiction author named Gerald Durrell, or Jerry Durrell. Probably one of the lesser known to the American audience. He is, in fact, the younger brother of Lawrence Durrell, the literary author. But Jerry Durrell wrote a series of very funny books about his family growing up in Greece, in Corfu, on an island of Greece. And he is obsessed with animals, and he collects animals, and his family is very esoteric, and everyone is incredibly quirky. The first book is called My Family and Other Animals. There's also a pretty funny couple of television adaptations from the BBC. And yes, they're charming and delightful. One of the things that I love about Durrell is his description. And I've always wanted to be as good as him when he just describes animals, but also when he describes the countryside and the various different houses and buildings his family is always living in. There's just this richness of ridiculous to the way he describes that reminds me a little bit of Woodhouse as well, who of course will come up shortly. So that's Durrell, Durrell. The next one I recommend for people who really want the funny, and I can understand wanting to reach for funny books right now, that's for sure, is Fjord. F-F-O-R-D-E, Jasper Fforde. I think it's Ford, but you know the Welsh. Yeah, not my language. Don't know how to pronounce things. The Ear Affair is a surreal comedy, and I find it hilarious. I think Ford's humor is pretty sophisticated, actually. It's farcical, but very sophisticated. And he assumes that you are literary yourself and have a good working knowledge of a lot of particularly British historical books like Austen and Dickens and Shakespeare and so on and so forth. And also that you maybe have a little bit of knowledge about what the personality and the character of those authors were. So if you are somebody like that who has a background in English literature, British English literature in particular, The Ear Affair is hilarious. Side split. I laughed so hard when I was reading that book. However, if you don't, you might feel like you're missing some inside jokes. The first book is based on Jane Eyre, so I would say you have to have read that, or at least watched some of the BBC costume drama adaptations of it to understand it at all. But if you have and do and are a fan of such things, you will love his work. I do. And again, I think I mostly listened to those on tape originally, so I think the audiobooks are also quite good. All right, next up is Guillory. Guillory writes rom-coms, contemporary rom-coms, of which the Wedding Date series is the one that I would recommend. So if you are a romance reader who was looking for very funny romances, then I think Guillory is a really good choice. So I don't have much more to say about that, except that, you know, a genuinely funny rom-com contemporary romance is pretty hard to find. So, yeah, at least in my experience. But if you have more recommendations, especially if they're queer, drop them below. Then I have Jerome K. Jerome. Only really the one. I mean, I don't even know if he wrote other stuff. It's a 1930s author who wrote Three Men in a Boat, and it's very funny. It's a very funny book. Highly recommend it. Very quick read, very easy to get a hold of. And it is particularly great in audio. So that's one I would highlight. Jerome K. Jerome's Three Men in a Boat, I would recommend listening to. It's so funny. A great like cross-country drive kind of listen. Although not very long. It won't get you very far across the country. All right. The next up, we have like who I would consider like the two heaviest of hitters in this particular genre of books that make you laugh, or books that made me laugh, and therefore accidentally or on purpose informed my own work, would be Terry Pratchett, or just plain old Pratchett. You know, where do you start with Pratchett? I started with Sorcery. I don't know that I would necessarily recommend that. It's one of his earlier works. I loved it, of course, but I would say Mort is probably a better start to Discworld, but, you know, I am assuming a lot of you watching have been around for a while, so you will have heard of Pratchett. And finally, Woodhouse. I've made no bones about the fact that Woodhouse very strongly informs my work, especially the earlier stuff. I adore Woodhouse. I understand at the time, especially. Well, I mean, for his time, he is problematic in ways that I don't want to really think about, because he is so funny. Standalone, like pull quote funny, very witty, weirdly. Jeeves and Wooster is what he's known for. I would recommend Laughing Gas. I think Laughing Gas is probably his best. It's a standalone. It is a British person lampooning Hollywood of the 1940s. And it's very, very funny. So, but Woodhouse, again, wonderful on audio, truly wonderful. A lot of the comedic authors really are. I think to get sort of the rhythm of comedy right, you need to be reading your stuff out loud. I don't know. Well, Woodhouse was a playwright, so I'm assuming he did, but I don't know about some of these others. But I think for authors to have a handle on written comedy, it needs to work in audio. The two go very much hand in hand. A good comedy author is also going to be good to listen to. Whereas, you know, with all authors, that's not always the case. Some authors are better to read rather than listen. And of course, it always depends on the narrator as well. But comedy authors, I think a good comedy author is also a joy to listen to, humor-wise. All right, I'm going to take a look through, see if we have any suggestions or thoughts on the funny books. Hogfather, somebody says, Margaret, that's an interesting start for Pratchett. I don't know that I would recommend that. I don't love Hogfather. Madame Askew recommends To Say Nothing of the Dog, of course, which is, oh my God. Oh my God, you all know the author. I'm old, you guys. I'm having a brain fart. But To Say Nothing of the Dog is a follow-up to, I don't know. I'm sorry, you guys. Somebody loves Durrell, which is wonderful. I'm so glad somebody else knows who Durrell is and loves them. Yay. Very exciting. YouTube has a lot of thoughts and recommendations. I'm really loving this. Thank you, guys. Oh, Chris Donnelly's What Ho Automata. Yes, that's very good. It's a parody. Well, not a parody. It's an honorarium. It is a steampunk honor it's an honoring of Woodhouse in steampunk form, I would say. Derivative, but in a good way. I don't know. Derivative is not the right word, but yes. Donnelly's What Ho Automata. I did read it. Basically, I think the Jeeves character is an automaton. I think that's how it goes. And it's quite good and very Woodhouse. This is but it's basically steampunk Woodhouse. Someone recommends cozy vibes, Gaslight Fantasy Peevely Manor by Robert Dowling. I don't know that one, but I do love the name Peevely. That is a wonderful name. Um, oh my God. Queen Honeybee said that they played the Hitchhiker's Text game on Commodore 64. I played that game. Wow. I forgot about it. Oh, it was so like you'd get bugged into corners and it was wild. Those were wild times. I often wonder if that game was legal or if it was all like just a fan, like a fanfic in game form. Um, Gosh, I forgot about that game. Ooh, lots of comments. Other people played that game, to say nothing of the dog again. The Jeeves and Wooster TV show is truly spectacular. Yes, if you want something to watch, it is very entertaining. Very, very entertaining. Again, it is of its time. There are some misses, shall we say, um, but you can't knock Woodhouse's talent for dialogue and absurd characterization. Ben McIntyre, nonfiction author who's hysterically funny, especially with descriptions. Yes, I kept for years a textbook about architecture. That was, you know, Why Things Don't Fall Down is the name of the textbook. Just because the nonfiction author was so good and so funny. I feel like Mary Roach can also be quite funny. There are some nonfiction authors out there who have great skills with humor, again, like Durrell. Yeah, I mean, Durrell's technically a memoirist, though it doesn't have that tone to it. I'm not a lover of memoir. Shh, don't tell anybody. But I would call Durrell a humor author more than a memoirist. But yeah, the nonfiction authors, I think, a really good nonfiction author has to make a dry subject entertaining, and they can do so with very adept humor. So McIntyre is a good recommendation. Yeah. I mean, you have to be interested in the topic, I would assume, to really enjoy it, but some of them are great. I cannot remember the name of the author who did Why Things Don't Fall Down, but in my defense, I read that book 30 years ago. So, um, someone comments, Neophia commented that their book club is reading Divinity 36. Oh, very honored. Thank you for picking that particular series, which is very near and dear to my heart. Yes, Kim recommends any Discworld older audiobook with death as a character, which is why I would go with Mort as my Discworld recommendation for Pratchett. I think Mort is a really good introduction because it has a lot of my favorite characters. Some people prefer the Guards series. Discworld has these little pockets of fandoms, right? Like there are the Guards fans, there are the Witches fans, and then there are the people like there are the Death fans. I'm a Death fangirl. But I feel like, and then there's his YA stuff as well, which is a touch different in style, the Tiffany stuff, but also relates to the Death series. That was very deep dive into Pratchett. I should say I haven't read all Pratchett. It's beyond me. So there are probably some that that are very good entrees that I don't know because I didn't read them. The recommendation for the Durrells in Corfu, which is based off of My Family and Other Animals. It's a great TV series. And yes, and I think why broadly appealing to lots of different ages. Yeah, it's a good family drama, I would say, to watch. The Durrells in Corfu. I don't know where it's airing, but this is what Google's for. Somebody is recommending Niven and Milligan as memoirs. And then there's a comment that I don't understand. So that's good beyond me. Oh, John has recommended comedy author Emma Bombach. If Life is a Bowl of Cherry, What Am I? The Pits is the name. I would trust John's recommendation. John is an early fan of my stuff, so therefore is very wise in these matters. So this recommendation is from the Facebooks, and it is Bombeck, Bombeck, for funny stuff. This is fun. I love talking about funny books, so I'm very happy to have more funny authors. I always say it's really hard, especially to find female comedy authors. So Yes, there's some commentary about the fact that Durrell eventually became an animal conservationist and is very important for sort of popularizing that and making, like, early saving of endangered species, in known through his just because his writing was so popular, in UK in particular. But yeah, he did contribute quite a bit to saving various different extinct, or would have been extinct animal species, because of his writing and how popular it was at the time. Okay. So, funny authors. All right. Shall we move on to the next category? So this category is, I think, going to be the one where there's a lot that could fit into this category. So I'm just going to speed through a few of them for you. And that is strong, well-rounded female main characters. Now, I don't always write this. I also write male main characters, but those of you who have come to my works via the Parasolverse, it's one of its hallmarks. And so these are just some of my favorites, I would say, and I just picked them because I think maybe you would like them if you like my stuff. And the first one I actually have is Bach's Paradox series. This is a space opera series about a mercenary main character. It's a tight 3-book series. The author is using a backbone of urban fantasy to write a space opera. So the pacing is very tight and very good. It's an absorbing trilogy. And it is well named Paradox because the conundrum that is facing the universe is in peril, as is not uncommon, is a paradox. It is basically a kind of a natural disaster that is happening, and all these different disparate intergalactic bodies who are all worried about, the universe exploding, have different solutions that may or may not be right. So it's an oddly realistic scientific conundrum, but these are adventure books, and it's just a really fun mix of two things. So Bach, Bach, and the name of the series is the Paradox series. I find it a really underread series, and I just think it's really good. It's just a good tight series. So if you want to, like, chewy little space opera, it has some interesting things to say about the nature of science, but also it is a rip-roaring good time. So there's mech armor and everything. It's lots of fun. Cole's The Loyal League is a series of Civil War spies in the US, and they are all excuse me, tea time. Very strong, very capable female main characters, but they're all spy characters. So if you are somebody who likes the historical and the female spies of the Etiquette and Espionage series, Cole's The Loyal League is a fun thing to look into. Oh, and their romances. Those have a good romance thread in them. Clayton's The Bells is a sort of selection style, futuristic competition kind of dealy bob. So again, fun, strong females, but a different concept, different style of genre. Draven's Radiance is one of my favorite all-time culture conflict romances. It's an arranged marriage romance with a sort of human, fae-ish kind of character and a dark elfy demon kind of character. And they have an arranged marriage, and they have to figure out whether they like each other and how to get along because they're entirely different species. And she's really good at writing the speciesness of it. Like, I really love culture conflict. I think it comes from my archaeology background. But so that's Draven Radiance is the name of that book. It is the sort of a series, but I think you can just read it. It stands alone for me anyway. Eliot's Court of Fives. I recommend this book a lot. It's a YA book. It is set in an alternate Greek occupied Egypt. So ancient Greece, Egypt, breadbasket time period, but there's magic. It's called Court as in a ball court, Court, of fives, because there is a sort of physical competition game. But in talking to Kate about it, she's a friend of mine, she said that she actually was thinking about Little Women when she was writing it, and it does have a Little Women component. So there's this strong sort of sisters component to it as well. Really engrossing. And it is a trilogy. I Eliot's work is beefy in general from when writing fantasy and space opera, but this is YA, and so her voice is very tailored and tighter than usual, and so I think this is her at her best, actually. Um, Feast and Words, Daughter of the Empire series. Oh, I do have this one. I didn't pull it though to show, but anyway, one of my favorite. Again, incredibly absorbing culture conflict amongst other things. This is a high political, high fantasy kind of. If you read the Rift War saga, this is the other side of the Rift War. It's an alternate quasi-feudal Japan, but there are maybe aliens have landed and integrated, and also they're at war with the basically a medieval version of the British Isle across a rift of time and space. I did not articulate that very well, but what's cool about it is the main character is a brilliant, incredibly strong woman who grows and changes and learns how to be even stronger. But what she's really good at and strong in is politics and machinations. And it's just, it still gives me thrills. It's such a fun, she does not pick up a sword and slash at people. She masterminds who does the slashing, and she's very good at it. And you get to watch her. The book opens with her entire family being annihilated and her house, for lack of a better term, suppressed and very not very powerful, and you get to watch her climb the ranks of the empire, and it is so good. It's such a good trilogy. It might be time for a reread. I'm clearly very excited about that one. So that's Daughter of the Empire. I think Daughter of the Empire is the first book. Yeah. Feast and Words. It's a co-authored piece. I like co-authors. I really do. There's something about it. I don't know. I often gravitate to co-authored book series. Tanya Huff's Valor series is a military space opera. I love Huff when she is writing military, particularly. She's very good at it. She was in the military. So she does it particularly well. If you like military space opera, then Valor is going to be right up your alley. But it does not satisfy the happy comedy criteria. Characters die in the Valor series, so just be aware that in that way they do not jive. But Staff Sergeant Kerr, who's the main character of the Valor series, I don't know how many books are in it now, is incredibly strong. So very much satisfies the strong heroine criteria. Pierce is going to make this list because Tamara Pierce is, like, for those of you who don't know, is one of my favorite authors of all time. Pretty much love everything she's ever written. Always has strong female main characters. So yeah, young adult and some middle grade, but mostly young adult. And then McKinley, I would go with The Blue Sword. It's my favorite McKinley. It's a Nebula. Is a Newbery Award winner for a reason, and it's phenomenal. I know there are people who love The Hero on the Crown. Harry has always been my McKinley character, but I love The Blue Sword. I love the desert setting. Love everything about that. So those are the strong heroines. And then on the blog post, there's a bunch of other recommendations that over the years I've gathered from the group and elsewhere. And then also there's some recommendations of authors who because this is really hard for an author to self-assess, but authors who you have determined are like my voice in some way or another. So this is all on that post. And yes, and I think with that, I'm going to throw it back to the comments. So please continue to tell me your recommendations for things. Like if somebody comes to you and said, I've read all of Gail's stuff, what do I read next? What would you recommend? You are, after all, the readers, so you should know best, right? Like I've said at the beginning, it's very hard for us authors to kind of self-diagnose why somebody likes our stuff. I do like to book curate. So I like to media curate in general. I do this with K-pop and other, and with some television shows and stuff like that, where somebody will be like, recommend something to me, and I'll be like, well, tell me the 3 things you like first, and then I can figure out, because I'm not going to recommend you something that I like if we don't have the same taste, right? So yeah, it is helpful if people say why they like a thing, or if you try to understand why you like a thing. Although I know that can be pretty difficult. Oh, someone has recommended the Veronica Speedwell books. Yes, by that's Rayburn. Those are really good too. Yeah, it's a long series. Yeah, those ones have come up a lot. I cannot remember if I read it. Oh, and Sue said Katie McAllister. McAllister's also done some steampunk stuff as a funny author. Again, the name I am familiar with. Cannot remember if I've read her or not. A funny author who also has come up is Tom Holt, Holt. Do not know this one at all. This is a new author on me. Expecting Someone Taller is the title that they recommend. And more girl love. Hooray. Great. I think that's many of the recommendations that were thrown out there. Someone else says Huff is great. Irma. Irma Bombeck. Bombeck. Well, Bombeck's pretty difficult to miss. If you put in Bombeck author funny, you'll probably get some books. Wendy wants to know if there's a book club. There is a book club. It is run via my Discord, though. You can find the Discord on the contact page of my website. It isn't always thrown open. I think it's currently working fine. But if there's a sudden influx, sometimes people think it's a raid and then the Discord shuts down. I don't know. I don't run the Discord. The Discord is I'm scared of Discord. But it is a healthy Discord environment. There's over 1,000 people in the server now, the Gail Carriger server, and it is mostly people chatting about cats. And I believe there's some train discussion, and then there is a book club. I've tried to have a book club various different ways. We tried having one in the Facebook group. I tried doing one via the blog. I tried doing one via the newsletter, and the Discord is the only one that has stuck. So it's in the Discord. That is where the book group now runs, is the Discord, because everywhere else hasn't worked. And so me being hands off also seems to help. That's why I'm hands off. But yes, that is the book group. Somebody says Kiri has Pratchett X footnotes. Oh, the Amelia Peabody books. What a long pull. Mysteries. If you like mysteries, try Amelia Peabody. Yeah. People compared my books to Amelia Peabody, the early books, very much so. I think mostly because Alexia and Amelia both have parasols and go around bopping each other. But the reality of the situation is that, what's her name? Elizabeth. Anyway, the author of the Amelia Peabody books and me both have the same source material for our main characters, which is Amelia B. Edwards. Her Amelia is named after Amelia B. Edwards, who wrote 1,000 Miles Up the Nile, which she's a Victorian person, a person from the Victorian era who traveled through the Dolomites and then eventually Egypt and wrote these travel journals. And she was a sketcher, and she would sketch all of the things that she was seeing. And they were published, and they caused a sensation in the 1850s and 1860s, and are partly responsible for the major surge in obsession with Egypt that the Victorians then experienced. So Amelia B. Edwards, she's a fascinating character. She and her boon female companion traipsed around the world without men. No, I'm sure they had porters and butlers and such, but it was, yes, she's quite a character. Definitely worth looking into, Amelia B. Edwards. But yeah, both of us archaeologists, me and Elizabeth Peters, are both archaeologists, and so I think that also informed it. There's a lot of archaeologists who write fiction. I don't know why the correlation happens, but it does. I think we just like stories, right? Archaeologists tell stories about the past, and so we like to be storytellers. So we yeah, those are funny, but those can be very funny. Her, again, like me, her earlier stuff is funnier than her later stuff, but very, very funny. Oh my God, somebody says Chat GPT recommended me to them. Oh my gosh. That I don't know how I feel emotionally about that, but thanks, Chat GPT, and welcome. I'm glad it worked. Oh, somebody's talking about McKinley's Deerskin, but that is rough going. Deerskin is a tough pull for me. I think I noped out of Deerskin. I think it got me too hard. I don't really know how I feel about using the word trigger, but if any book triggered me, it would have been Deerskin. Yeah. I no shade because I encourage you to do the same, but I drop books. Like if that book is not working for me or if it wigged me out or I have a real high squick. So if it gets too like graphic in its description of violence in particular, um unless it's like Black Knight Monty Python style absurdist violence, Iliad battle absurdity of violence. For those of you who haven't read the Iliad, the battles are absolutely absurd. Um, anyway, if it's not that kind of violence, then if it's like actual graphic descriptions of the way some people feel about graphic sex scenes is how I feel about graphic violence. So I can't. So I nope out. And then I do have some sort of, I guess you would call them triggers for specific kinds of tropes. And if the book goes in to some of those, then I stop. Or if it uses certain plot devices that I really, really dislike. And I'm afraid I understand Deerskin. So one of my best friends and one of my first beta readers, Deerskin is her favorite McKinley, and I've never been able to finish it. So I understand loving that book, but I'm afraid I couldn't do it. Book talk with Gail, man. You get all of my confessions. All right. We have a question. Oh, somebody is remembering the thing, which is if you have a question for me, please put a question at the beginning of the sentence. That way I know immediately as I'm scanning the comments that it's a question. What's the series with the flying houses? You mean Howl's Moving Castle? I can't remember. That's the only flying house I can pull out of thin air. Shoot, I'm sorry. Accidental pun. India Holt, Elizabeth Peters. Yes, definitely. India Holt is Holt also a mystery, right? I think so. I don't read a lot of mysteries. My parents are mystery readers or were mystery readers, and so I'm not. As a rebellion. I read some, but I don't read a lot, but I do read some. I've even sort of written some, but that's because I do comfort watch cozy mysteries like Midsummer Murders and stuff. I don't know, because I grew up with that. That was the only thing my parents ever watched on TV, and I would sneak it and watch it even if I wasn't allowed to. And so, like, there's something comforting about the British countryside killing and then solving murders. I don't know why. The League of Gentlemen Witches. Oh, that's India Holt. Okay. Yeah, I don't I guess paranormal witch investigating, maybe? Don't know. Barbara, oh yeah, Elizabeth Peters. Yeah. Yeah, Elizabeth Peters was a great author. All right. Well, in the last couple of minutes, I'll give you all the report on what's going on with the new book. I am, in fact, working on a book. It's going very long. For those of you who are part of my newsletter, you get a little check-in and you get my little word count as proof that I'm typing away. We talked recently about which of my books is the longest ever, and I thought it would be the Demigod 12, just because it has a real fat spine on my shelf. I thought Demigod 12 was actually the longest book I've ever written. It's not. It turns out. Imprudence is the longest book I've ever written prior to this one. Imprudence was 106,000 words, which is not long by most author standards, but is long by my standards. The one that I'm currently on is 115 words. It is getting too long for me. And so what I will probably do is divide it into a duology, whether you like it or not. I'm sorry. On the bright side, you will get the first part much faster that way. You won't be waiting for me to edit the whole darn thing. I'll edit it in 2 sections. But yes, it is I don't have the book out, but it is the next in the claw on courtship. So it is a Parasolverse book. It covers a lot of time and space, which is why these 2 characters are adventurers and they are going out and about. And I am crossing many, many lands. So there's a lot of pausing and researching going on while I was writing these books. Also, I was dealing with various life emergencies during the course of writing this book, now books. But that is what you can expect next for me. And I am so close to being done. It is so close. I promise it should be done. So you should get the first half of that one this year, all fingers and toes crossed. Yeah. And then the second install the second half or the second volume at the beginning of next year. That is the current plan. But it's great. It is, yeah, Parasolverse, it is set opposite many of the events in the Parasolverse. So basically, you get a low-ranked, kind of non-elite werewolf character, and you sort of get, so it's like an upstairs, downstairs kind of idea. You get kind of his perspective on what's going on with these various different alphas of the London pack. So you get his perspective on Lord Macon, you get his perspective on Biffy, and yeah, and also prior to that, he's older than both of those characters. So maybe not older than Lord Macon, but anyway, he's an older character. So he's made during the Napoleonic War. So you kind of get his like perspective on wide-ranging political events, and he is pacifist. So I wrote a werewolf who doesn't want to fight. And so now, yeah, partly is a sort of fun challenge for myself, but partly because that's kind of what I'm feeling these days. And how does that kind of character exist when, under the conceits of my universe, werewolves are forced to do military service, amongst other things. So you'll have to wait and see how that finds out. And then his love interest is delightful. She is a healer character. I've always wanted to do soldier healer as a romantic pairing. And yeah, so she has, she's another medic character. She's not like Arsenic. She's not a doctor. She's sort of healer trained throughout time. And specifically, she's what would have been called a surgeon by the Victorians, in that she focuses on healing injury. That's her specialty. But also she's very, very long-lived. So yeah, somebody said to me, Gail, you should write a Nuna romance, which is basically an age gap romance between a younger man and an older woman. And I was like, I will absolutely do that. But it's going to be an 800-year-old woman and a 100-year-old man. I was like, we're writing a Nuna romance with a big age gap, but also Gail style, me style. So that's the book I'm currently working on. And yeah, I read a little bit of it. You can check it out on the YouTube channel. I posted it as a live. So if you go to my new YouTube channel, to the live section, you can see at the book launch event for the manga for this book, I did a little bit of, because I wasn't going to read from the manga. That seemed silly. I read from the current work in progress. So you can learn a bit more about it there if you want to. It's about 8 or 9 minutes in. I read the scene. So if you want more, you can go check it out. And on that note, I'm going to finish my delightful green tea, and I will talk to you all next week. I will not be doing a live next week. Next month, there will be no live because I will be in Chicago. So I will be at the steampunk event in Chicago. Come and say hi if you're in the area and you feel like it. It's going to be fun. I've done this event before. It's a grand old time. It's very like classic steampunk, and it'll be low-key and delightful. And I will be there milling around. Bring any books you want signed. Just come and say hi. Have a drink. Have some tea with me. It'll be good. But it is this timing next month. It's the second weekend next month. So I'm pretty sure I'm not going to be doing a live. So I'll see you the month after that in July. So have a lovely end of spring, beginning of summer, and we'll see you in a couple months. Bye.